So let me start over again. Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. What I want to start with today is actually something different. I've been looking for some kind of a commentary on Bhagavad Gita to supplement my reading of Bhagavad Gita. And I finally found it. It has been with me for a long time. It's called Dnyaneshwari. This is a commentary written by Sant Dnyaneshwar. He is a contemporary of Thomas Aquinas. This is written in about, let's see, this is about 20, just a second. It is written around, I think he was born 1275, and this was written when he was about 16, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read one of the verses. I'm just going to read one verse. It is totally 9,000 verses, but I'm going to read one verse, his opening verse, which tries to summarize what study of Gita is about. And then I'm going to read from his introduction about when he starts talking to people about what he's doing. So those are the two things I'm going to do, after which I'm going to ask Yogeshwar to give whatever comments he has on it. And then I'm going to open it up for anybody who wants to comment on these two things. So first is one sentence description is what Gita is about. And second is Dnyaneshwar's approach to Gita and to learning, okay? So let me start. So I'm going to start by speaking the first line, and then I'm going to try to talk about how I understand it. Om Namo Jiyadya Veda Pratipanya Jaya Swasamvedya Atmarupa. So it starts with Om Namo Jiyadya. What he's saying is Om, which represents the Brahman and the Atman. Om is the source, it's the beginning, it's the root of everything. And I worship it, I bow to it, I adore it, I focus on it. That is what I'm doing. So this is the first fourth of the sentence. Om Namo Jiyadya. Next, he says, Veda Pratipanya. What it means is that Om is the subject of all the Vedas. So all we are studying is Om. That's it. That is the center, that's the root, that's God, that is the core of you. That is what we are studying. Next, so next he says, Jaya Jaya Swasamvedya Atmarupa. Jaya Jaya means I felicitate, I celebrate, I worship again this Om, which is focused on Atma Swarup, Atma Roop. That means your own nature, its own nature, its own beauty, its own shape. And how is it doing that? Swa Samvedya. That means it's the self being self-aware. So the core idea of the Indian philosophy is Tattvamasi, that the Brahman and Atman is one. So that means God and the core of you is the same. So whatever he's saying about the Brahman, whatever he's saying about God applies to him, to your own core. So what he's saying is that I am bowing to the core, to the God in me. The whole purpose of study is to study the center of your being. One that is self-conscious, that is completely engrossed in its own nature. So it is a profound statement. This is one sentence that captures, for me, what Gita is about. He's saying that's what we're studying. That's all we're studying. If that's all you get, that's it. Now, this is what we are studying. Now, let me talk about, he starts to, at the end of his introduction, he starts to talk about his approach to Gita. And there he says that, look, I'm a child. Okay. Just like children, when they start to babble and learn to speak, they can't properly form the words. They don't know how to pronounce the word. The word in Marathi is called bobda. Bobda means a child is speaking sentences, but can't quite get the pronunciation. But he says that when a child speaks like that, his parents actually adore it, though he's not speaking properly. And that's the state I'm in. I'm really not able to speak about such a thing, because he's saying it's like, and what he's saying is that he's now talking to the audience. He says, look, there is this God in you, which is the sun. My capacity is only of a firefly. So it's like, I have this temerity of trying to light up the sun when I'm a firefly. Okay. So please, just like parents overlook the faults, he says, look, if I'm fail to say something, please fill in the blanks for me. If I say too much, which doesn't make sense, please ignore it. Okay. Now that is an attitude of a seeker. This, what he's saying, is completely in the Indian tradition. Now, remember that he's saying this is being said by the person who said that one sentence, capturing the whole essence of what is being done by Gita in a single sentence. And he's saying, this is babbling. This is just me trying to learn to speak. Because the grandeur of what I'm talking about, which is there in God, in existence, and in my own soul, and in your soul, it's so grand that whatever words I'm speaking are no good. I'm struggling. Okay. And now if what Dnyaneshwar is doing is this, then I think like my reaction to him and what I'm saying right now is like an infant cooing, looking at his big brother babbling and saying, oh, that, and trying to produce a sound. Okay, that's about as much. But what I'm saying is that this is core of Indian approach to things, both of God, who you are, what other people are, what learning is, the love of learning, making allowances for people who are learning, and remaining humble, no matter how little or how much you know. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that as part of the context. So now I'm going to have Yogeshwar, would you like to talk about any comments on either the first sentence or Dnyaneshwar's talking about him being a seeker?
Yes, actually, about being the seeker. So that is how you can reach the final state of enlightenment, basically. If you are not a seeker and you feel that out of the words that you have heard or out of what you have read, you can understand everything, then you're basically in a state of mind whereby you feel you have everything, but you don't have it. Because you have only taken the words to be everything, but the meaning of the words is actually what should be happening within you. And you have totally ignored that part and only taken the words as they are. So that is actually being a seeker, whereby you know you have not walked the path, you know others have walked the path, so you can actually bow down to them and ask how I can walk the path myself. Yeah. And not only by reading the words or listening to somebody should I feel that I've become greater. It should be an experience from within that comes, and it should actually be a practice from within.
Wonderful. I want to talk about the thing I like about Dnyaneshwar is the metaphors he uses. And partly, Gita is full of metaphors like this. And Dnyaneshwar kind of adds to those metaphors. So for example, I'll talk about two. And for example, when he's describing his limits, he's saying, it's like, I'm a parrot, and I'm trying to give you the ocean by carrying it one at a time in my beak and transferring it to you. Okay, it's a completely futile thing. But that's what I'm trying to do here. Okay. Now, I want to also point out two different beautiful metaphors he's using in later works, later in Dnyaneshwari, one using the ocean and one using the parrot. Okay. So let's take the one on ocean. This actually this metaphor originates in Gita, but he takes it much further. He says, most people think of themselves as salt. Okay. And when they grasp Om, they realize that Om is an ocean. And as they delve into it, they become one with it. So the Atma and Brahman become one. And another way of putting it is that the function is the ocean, and salt is the form. You get attached to the forms, but the forms came from the function and are going into the function. And that ocean, you realize, you look at another person, another piece of salt, another person who thinks that they are salt, but you realize that they're actually part of the ocean. So you see the ocean in them, regardless of that, how their shape is different. So that's one thing about ocean. I also love the metaphor he has on the parrot. He says, when a parrot is sitting on a branch, right, there is the sky up above, and that is his home. The whole of sky is his home, and he's holding on to the branch. Then suddenly what happens? So the branch is the thing on the ground, the material thing, and the Brahman is the entire sky, which is open to him. Okay. And then what happens is that for most people, there is a wind that comes along and he turns upside down. Okay. So now imagine a parrot turning upside down. Now he looks down and he sees the ground and he's afraid to let go of the branch. So it's like an inverted being, which has forgotten what its starting point is, what its home is, and what its temporary perching place is. And because he's afraid, because he's turned upside down, all he has to do is to let go. And the sky is his. But he doesn't, because he's turned upside down. So this is what Dnyaneshwar keeps doing, throughout Dnyaneshwari. Does anybody have any comments? Otherwise, I want to tell a story about Dnyaneshwar. Let me go ahead and tell the story about Dnyaneshwar, because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to give you a richer and richer context of the Indian tradition from many different angles. It may seem not connected with what we are saying, but actually it is. But it is a way of just giving you the concretes from which you can abstract out what the Indian mind is like. I came to America over 35 years ago now. And when I came here for the first time, so firstly, I grew up in Bombay, India, and I was in Marathi medium. So till 7th grade, I did not speak English. And I came from a family, my grandfather was a literary figure, and some of the top authors in Marathi and many other languages used to actually come and stay at our place, discuss with each other, read out their plays. So I grew up, I read incessantly. I was very much kind of brought up in the literary tradition of kind of learning and, appreciating all of it. So that it is so my Marathi is actually very good. I grew up with that. I did not know English in 7th grade. Then when I came to America, I lost the habit of speaking Marathi and writing Marathi. And after about 10 years here, I was going back to India. And I said, I remember it was one Sunday, I said, let me see if I can still do Marathi. And I write a lot every day. And mostly it is about psychology, psychological and philosophical ideas. So I said to myself, okay, today I'm going to write the same thing, but I'm going to write it in Marathi. Okay. And I tell you, it was the most amazing experience. Because what happens is that each language, their concepts are different. The way things are formulated in each of the languages is different. So when you're trying to grasp the same thing, one with one hand and one with another hand, the grips are slightly different. And in trying to figure out the grips, you actually understand what you are thinking about better. So I was blown away by that exercise. So I said, I have this basis in Marathi, and I should not let that go. I have to build on it. So when I went to India, I decided that I wanted to dive into the history of Marathi language. And the way I did that was I tried to identify the key milestones in the development of Marathi language. And actually the first large milestone in Marathi language is this book, Dnyaneshwari. That's the one that I'm quoting. That's by Dnyaneshwar. He was born in 1275. He was the first person who wrote Gita in Marathi. Before him, it was available only in Sanskrit. So you had to know Sanskrit in order to learn Gita. And he said, this should be accessible to everybody. So he was the one who wrote it in Marathi. And in the process, he transformed Marathi. It's the first surviving literary work in Marathi. It completely shaped Marathi, changed Marathi, because nobody had actually expressed these thoughts in Marathi before. So it just, and that was made accessible to everybody. So that was the first book. And then, now this is of course, written, this is 13th century Marathi. So 13th century Marathi is different from modern Marathi. I understand a lot of it, but I still need translations. So I looked through all the translations I could find and finally found this one, which was done in 1870. Okay, so it's a rare book. And I couldn't find copies of it. There were some copies available at a library, and that's where I found it. And I saw the scholarship there of this gentleman who has written this. And I said, this is so much better than anything else that is there. So and my next step was to study saint called Tukaram, who is the next big step. What he does, what Dnyaneshwar does, is that he brings Gita, all of Indian philosophy, deepest of Indian philosophy, into Marathi. What Tukaram does is that he writes these very short poems called Abhanga, these poems, which connect the deepest of these ideas into everyday life. And those are just beautiful, beautiful poems. So that was the next, because I was studying the big milestones, Tukaram was the next milestone. So I went to this little library that I used to go there as a kid. It was still there. So I went there and I explained to the librarian, said, look, I've been studying this. I've just finished reading, trying to, go through Dnyaneshwar. Now I'm looking at Tukaram and I'm trying to figure out how to approach Tukaram. So the librarian says, wait. And she picks up the phone and calls somebody and hands me the phone. And she says, this lady has done a PhD on Tukaram. She is one of the topmost authorities on Tukaram. Please talk to her. Okay. So I say, hello. I said, I tried to explain that this is what I'm trying to do. I've just finished looking at Dnyaneshwar. Now I'm trying to look at Tukaram and I'm kind of lost. And I don't know how to proceed. So she said, look, it is difficult for me to explain how to approach Tukaram over the phone. Can you, I'm only like 15, like 5 minutes walk away. Can you come to my place and I will explain everything to you? Please come to my place so I can explain everything to you. I said, oh, of course. So I go there and, she's amazingly amazing. And she asked me, so what are you doing? So she says, I told her that, look, I was going through Dnyaneshwar and this is the book that I found in the library, but I cannot find a copy of it because it's a rare book. So she says, wait. She goes in and brings this copy, okay? And she says, here, this is yours. So I said, I can't accept this. This is a rare book. She says, no. My mother-in-law just died recently and she left me this copy. I already have a copy. I can't think of a better use of this copy than to give it to you. Okay. Now, this is Indian tradition. There is reverence for learning. Anytime anybody sees that somebody is trying to genuinely learn, people go out of their way to help. Okay. So, and it doesn't matter the level. I mean, the way she was talking to me, she says, please do me a favor. Please let me talk to you about Tukaram. Okay. And I was completely taken aback by that. But that is the Indian way. Just like Dnyaneshwar, while capturing the whole of Gita in one sentence, says, please excuse me, excuse my babbling. I'm talking to you. You are the son, you have the God in you, and I'm trying to tell you what it is, but please understand that I'm doing this out of love. So please excuse, my mistakes. That is the Indian tradition of learning. So Dnyaneshwar, and it's just incredibly beautiful work. It's about 9,000 verses, just like the one verse I read. It's 9,000 verses, commenting on the 700 verses of Gita. And again and again, what he tries to do is that he shows you how it actually applies in everyday life, using this just incredible set of metaphors and all kinds of things. So I just wanted to share that with you. Next time, as an introduction, I want to talk to you folks about the relationship between Arjun and Krishna. It is a beautiful, beautiful story. And you can see the love that is there between Krishna and Arjun. And you can see, it's such a profound thing. So I would like to talk about it. Yogeshwar, if you'd like, you're welcome. It would be wonderful if you can add anything that you want about it. So we will start the next week with observations about, Krishna Arjun. Also, I mean, just look at the fact that this is a dialogue. This is somebody asking questions and somebody answering questions. Also note that this is happening in the middle of a war. Okay, so if you want to talk about integration between action and knowledge, here in the middle of the war, the chariot is put right between the two armies ready to go at each other. And they are discussing Gita. They're going to talk about Gita. It is not considered unusual. See what it says about knowledge and the importance of knowledge. See what it says about the importance of karma, and see what it says about the connection between them. Just that, of where it takes place. So there is just so much here, and I look forward to exploring that next time. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm always honored. We have meetups going on Dao De Jing. If you have not already joined 52 Living Ideas meetups, please go ahead and do that. All my meetups, I post only some meetups in other places, but I post all our meetups are posted here. So I want to highlight a couple of meetups that are coming up. This Sunday, Jason and Amon have been working together to translate Dao De Jing just for our group. So they do amazing job of doing a fresh translation. Jason knows Mandarin, and he shows you word by word. We're going to hear like the first part of Dao De Jing, entire 37 verses together, and see what that effect, what is the effect of listening to that. So that's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. And on Wednesday, we are going to do a meetup on the 3 religious texts and 3 architects. So we're going to, this is part of our Comprehensivist Wednesdays, where we try to connect different fields. So we're going to see the commonalities and differences between these 3 works, Gita, Tao Te Ching, and Gospel of John. We're also going to do the same for the 3 architects, Louis Sullivan, Harold Nelson, and Buckminster Fuller. And then we are going to try to compare how these architects look at the world and how these religious texts look at the world. What are the commonalities and differences between them? On Tuesdays, we do Tao Te Ching, and on Thursdays, we do Gospel of John. And Fridays is always Gita. All right, so it's always an honor to have you here. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you soon. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you, Yogeshwar.